This is the Silencerco Switchback. This is our latest and greatest rimfire silencer. It's the most advanced design on the market. It's modular, it has 3 different lengths and 4 total configurations you can put it in. Let's take it apart and see what it looks like inside. First, we'll remove our back cap. This is your serialized component with your serial number and other required information on it. Then we'll slide out our short baffle stack here. We've got our short rear tube, our coupler baffle, remove our long baffle stack, and we have our front cap and our long tube. And then to take apart your baffles, they do click together, so they do kind of hold on to each other. If you do have a hard time taking these apart, you can use something like a screwdriver or an Allen wrench. Kind of stick in there and help pry it off if you're having trouble. All right, and that is our switchback taken apart completely. So here the switchback is totally taken apart. This is how you would take it apart if you needed to clean it. All of your baffles and front cap, coupler baffle, and back cap are all made out of 17-4 stainless steel, but your tubes are made out of grade 9 titanium, so we'll want to clean those by hand, but they don't get very dirty anyway because all your fouling is contained inside the baffles. You'll also want to clean your back cap by hand. It's just not something you want to take any risks with because it is your serialized controlled component. That's a little harder, a little more complex to replace if you were to have some sort of mishap. But that's also why it's on the rearmost part of the silencer to keep that risk to an absolute minimum. Aside from that, everything you see here can be put in an ultrasonic cleaner, the dip. You can scrub it by hand or use any recommended cleaning method in the manual. Now let's go through the different configurations. Let's start by putting it back in the default configuration, how you would take it out of the box. We're going to start with the coupler baffle. The coupler baffle you want to treat as the foundation or the basis for putting the rest of the silencer together when you are putting it in one of the full-length configurations. Starting with our coupler baffle, note that there is a baffle that is machined as a single piece in here, so make sure you pay attention to which way the cone is facing. So the cone is facing, just as an example, this baffle facing that way, same direction, and we're going to put our rear tube on, paying attention to make sure that the lip is facing the coupler. The reason for that is your baffles still need to go inside, and they can't go in the lip side, they can only go through the smooth side. So let's thread that in there. And with our long tube, same thing. The lip is on this side, so it's going to be facing inward toward the coupler baffle. And then we'll just snug that down gently with a wrench. Don't need to crank on it too hard. You just want to make sure it's a little tighter than you can get it just by hand. All right, now that our tubes are assembled, let's put together our baffle stacks. So your rear stack that goes in the short tube section is going to use 1 blast baffle and 2 of your standard baffles. If you notice on these, there are dots, and they align with the cutouts on the cone. This is just to aid you in aligning them. For best performance in accuracy and sound suppression, you want these cutouts on your baffles to be aligned. So just aligning those dots makes it a little bit easier. You can just see from the outside and make sure they're aligned. So I've got those all snapped together, and now I'm going to drop that in the tube, and because I'm sliding them in this way, I can then visually align the cutouts on this baffle stack with the cutout on the coupler baffle. So we'll slide that in there, lined up. I'll thread my back cap on, give it a little snug with a wrench. And for the long tube section, I'm going to take my blast baffle that goes on the back, line up the dot on that with the rest of the dots, lining all these baffles up. All right, now that I got all those aligned, I'm going to slide it in the tube. And again, look down the bore. and ensure, just rotate that stack and make sure all of my ports are aligned. Last, we thread our front cap back on. Snug it down. We're ready to go. We're back in our default configuration. Now that we're back in our full-length default configuration, let me walk you through the other configurations you can put this in, starting with the medium length one. So for this one, we just want this long tube and the baffles that are inside. So we're going to just go ahead and unthread that section. And we'll need our back cap as well. Set those to the side. Put the back cap back on. Snug it down. And there we are. So here's the medium configuration. Now I'll show you the shortest configuration. We're going to remove the back cap. And this is essentially how it was oriented in our default configuration. But instead of keeping the long section, we just want to keep the short section. And of course our front cap. So we'll set those parts to the side, put our front cap back on. And our back cap. And now we are in our shortest configuration. Do a little snug with the wrenches to make sure everything's tight. We now have our switch back in the shortest configuration. We will now put it back into its default configuration so I can show you the fourth and final configuration, which is the rifle optimized. This is default configuration. This has all of our baffles facing the standard direction, back cap here, front cap there. Now, to switch this into our rifle optimized configuration, what we're going to do is we're going to unthread our front cap, and we're going to take this entire stack out and flip it backwards. Let's align the baffles to make sure we're squeezing every last bit of sound performance and accuracy out of this that we can by having all those ports aligned. Front cap goes back on. Snug it down with a wrench, and we're ready to rock and roll. That is rifle optimized configuration. So your first few baffles up to your coupler are facing standard direction, and the rest of them are facing backwards. Now that'll make your suppressor another 6 decibels quieter on average if you're shooting a subsonic 22 LR load in a barrel that's about 10 inches or longer. Below 10 inches or on any handguns, it's actually going to make it louder and give you more first round pop. So really the application this is for is on rifles that are 22 LR shooting subsonics. So that covers the Silencerco Switchback rimfire silencer. We've covered all 4 of its configurations in 3 lengths. You now know how to take it apart and put it back together. If you have any further questions at this point, look in the owner's manual or give us a call.